In 1831, workmen were improving the outfall of the nearby cotton mill. This involved the construction of an embankment to separate the outflow from the main river using gravel from the riverbed. After a short while, the workmen began to find a few silver coins in the gravel some 60 yards below the bridge, which were quietly dispersed amongst themselves. Throughout the week, coins continued to be found in ever-increasing numbers, and the further upstream they worked, the greater their discoveries. 1 week passes, and several thousand were obtained, and they located a cubic yard of coins about 15 meters below the bridge. At a distance of about 5 feet down underground, 5,000 coins were found by 2 men in one day. Word soon spread of the coins' discovery among the workers and locals, and very soon hundreds of people were in pursuit of the coins, often immersed to their waists with shovels. It is estimated that 100,000 coins of Edward I and Edward II were recovered, although some 360,000 coins were estimated to originally be stored within the caskets. The Derby Mercury paper reported that workers were collecting sufficient coins to earn at least £10 a day. Further digging on behalf of the duchy, the excavations were infilled by order of William IV. This order remains in force and can be seen exhibited in Tutbury Church. From the very large number of coins discovered, it is not probable that these were the private property of an individual, accumulated for the supply of the ordinary expenses of his establishment, but indeed the treasury of a king or somewhat potent nobleman, collected to defray the charges of some great public undertaking, or to provide the pay and remunerate the services of some large body of retainers. It was probably the military chest of some extensive armament, and this conjecture seems strengthened by the circumstance of the coins being unaccompanied by any other valuables or articles of domestic use, which probably would have been the case had the treasure been private property, or purposely buried for temporary concealment. One theory, however, is that the coins belonged to Thomas Earl. But why? Let's go back some 700 years. Thomas, Earl of Lancaster, sided with the Scots against his cousin King Edward II of England in the early 1300s. With tensions rising and the ever high risk to his life, King Edward decided to attack Tutbury Castle and mounted an army from London. It wasn't long until Thomas heard about Edward's plans and returned to Tutbury with his own army of 30,000 men. Thomas's domestic expenses during the war totaled £7,452, equating to just over £5.9 million today, which is why he is the main suspected owner. Thomas then began fortifying the Burton Bridge, the only crossing over the Trent, for miles, and then he held the bridge against the king's advancing party. The king received advice that there was little known ford at Walton, so he crossed the river, leaving a decoy force at the bridge, and attacked Thomas from the direction of Branston. Edward II's tactics came up trumps and celebrated a great victory at the Battle of Burton Bridge on March 10, 1322, and retreated to Tutbury Castle, leaving Burton in flames. Thomas, the Earl of Lancaster, was expecting reinforcements from his Scottish allies, but when they failed to arrive, he was forced to escape over the Dove. The treasure was thought to have been the payment from the Earl to his troops and Scottish allies, possibly to be taken to the Priory for safekeeping. Many witnesses confessed to seeing the casks being transported, but a wall of silence ensued. But just like all great hoards, there are many other theories as to why the coins were buried. The first is that Thomas's treasurer lost the casket whilst crossing the flooded Dove. 2. The monks hid the treasure for their own procurement or safekeeping until the kings returned. 3. Looters of the castle found 3 barrels containing £1,500 and hid them in the bank of the river. What we do know for certain is that many coins remain in the river, and a few coins can be seen in the Stoke-on-Trent Museum in Hanley. 2 of the finders, neighbours John Blackburn and Hugh Barber, had located a large cachet. Barber cashed in his part immediately, receiving £100. Blackburn had sold enough to buy him a horse and cart and a gun, but he kept a lot of the coins for himself. He and his wife after became reclusive, even from their own sons. They stopped working their farm and kept people away. In 1852, the Blackburns were found murdered. Did this have anything to do with the wealth they had incurred? The sudden acquisition of wealth can change people, you see. And when coins started to be found in the River Dove in 1831, some lucky people found themselves in possession of silver worth more than they'd ever held before. John Blackburn was one such person. Rather than turn the coins into the crown for a monetary reward, he cashed in only enough to buy a horse and trap and a gun to protect the rest. He then returned to his farm with his wife, Jane. They started living off their own private stash now, neglecting the farm and letting their hard labour go. They avoided people and even their own sons, Thomas and Henry. Then, in October of 1852, would-be rescuers rushing to the Blackburns' burning house found John and Jane murdered. For the Staffordshire police, suspicion fell on the sons, who might have wanted their inheritance. Evidence was lacking, however, until a scrawled, anonymous letter written by someone who knew unpublished details about the murder implicated Henry Blackburn. Henry would not have implicated himself, so the police made inquiries to find the scribe. They found Charles Moore, a former labourer of the Blackburn farm. He had talked several times about the treasure hidden away on his former employee's land, and had also mentioned being hired by Henry Blackburn to kill an old couple in return for a share of the silver. 4 men were taken into custody: Charles Moore, Henry Blackburn, and 2 Irish associates of Moore, Edward Walsh and Peter Kewen. A 3-day trial included a witness who heard Moore discussing how to start a fire with resin and pitch. It was determined that Henry Blackburn's name in the letter was designed to throw suspicion off the real culprit, Moore. Kerwin and Blackburn were declared innocent, and Walsh was declared a conspirator and sentenced to transportation for life, which was being sent out of the country, likely to Australia. And the Blackburns' personal treasure was never found, and it would be incredibly hard to value such a hoard, but 26 coins were sold through auction for £3,000 in 2010, which were the coins you can see on screen during this video. The final coin count included gold and silver coins of Henry III, Edward III and Edward II, Scottish coins of Alexander III, John Balliol and Robert the Bruce, plus kings of Bohemia and Poland. The coin's contents show the diversity of coinage that circulated in England, with many Scottish and continental examples found, very commonly seen within the medieval hoards. So there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and be sure to let me know down below if you'd like to see some more hoards, and if so, what hoards you'd like me to cover in the future. Thank you all for your continued support, and as always, keep collecting.